Well, tonight I want to do a video. I got my good buddy with me, Mr. Matthew. And Mr. Matthew is responsible for all of these videos, all the thumbnails, every bit of it. He's taking care of all of that for us. And the reason he is because I don't know how to do it. But I was telling him I thought I'd like to share with y'all a thought that I had years ago, back in 1970. All of a sudden, God called me to preach, and we're going to Nashville, Tennessee. I was living in Newport News, Virginia at that time, and I'm working at the shipyard. And as it worked out, God was going to teach me some lessons. And one of them was, God will take care of you. And folks, I'd always heard that, but I had never experienced it. In other words, God may have been taking care of me, but I wasn't in a place that I knew that He was taking care of me. But He was about to put me in a place where I would know for sure I couldn't make it without His help. Well, when I was working at the shipyard, because I left when I left, I had to leave before the end of the year to be in college at a certain time. And I lost my vacation pay. And God did everything He could do. One of the bosses tried his best to get the money for me, and I didn't get it. So that was about $500 down the drain. And the best I can remember, we didn't have probably $500 to our name. The only thing we knew is that God was calling us to preach, and I didn't feel equipped. I knew that if I was going to preach, I needed somebody to train me in the Word of God. And there were things that I wanted to go, somebody teach me how to win somebody to Christ. And I would witness to the guys there at the shipyard, and before I left, one of the guys that worked with me, tears just streaming down his face, and I didn't know what to do with him. I didn't know what to do next, what to tell him to do. So my burden was, biggest deal, take me to Bible college. Let me learn how to win folks to Jesus. And in the process, God was going to teach me some lessons about His ability to take care of His children. I'd never been in a place where He had to, that I knew of anyway. But when I share my story with you, you'll see that God had to take care of me. It wasn't just He was promised I'll take care of you. He showed me He would take care of me, and I can tell you He did take care of me. Now, I didn't make the money. I mean, I left the shipyard, I was making $4.28 on the hour. Got to Nashville, Tennessee, and part of the way that God was going to take care of us, He opened up a house for us. We lived with a Catholic lady, and she catered to Free Will Baptist Bible College students. And she took care of, we didn't pay any rent. She took care of the utilities. But my wife had to do all the meals, and we had to buy all the food. So my wife is a tremendous cook. And matter of fact, such a good cook, did such a good job taking care of this lady, that a number of years later, after we had moved to North Carolina, she called Eileen, didn't call me. She didn't care if I come or not. She wanted her to cook. But she called Eileen and said, listen, if you'll come out and take care of me till I die, I will give you the house and everything that's in it. And we invited her to come live with us because she was really a great lady. She's good to our children. And she said, no, I don't want to leave my home. So needless to say, we didn't want to leave our home either. And we had a ministry here, so we didn't go. But getting back to my story, we got to Nashville, Tennessee, and got in the home and went over to the Bible college, enrolled for my first semester, and I think we had $500 and gave them $300 of it. So all of a sudden we're in a situation, how are we going to make it? Well, instead of making it easy, it was a difficult journey. I couldn't find a job. I went out for 6 weeks every day looking for a job. I mean, I was looking for anything just so I could feed my family and Aunt Helen. Well, there's 5 of us. I had 2 children, my wife and I, and Aunt Helen. And I needed to make a living, and it just wasn't happening. So I said, hey, what's going on here? You know, here you called me to preach, and you called me to leave a good paying job, and I left one making $4.28. I finally got a job. I was Sears Roebuck, and I was selling shoes, and my manager was impressed, and he said, I'm going to get you on full time. And they told him, said, look, he's only going to be here for 4 years while hiring full time. I needed a full time job, and I didn't get it. As a matter of fact, I had a part-time job. I was making $1.70 an hour. Now remember, God is teaching me some lessons. I must be a slow learner, I'm telling you. At any rate, it didn't get much better pay-wise, but you know what happened? We never went without. I lost 30 pounds before I went to Bible college, and before I left to come back to North Carolina, I gained every single one of those pounds back. Bought me a suit from the Ladies of Charity. Matter of fact, I was ordained in a Ladies of Charity suit. I couldn't afford to buy a suit, but bought that one, thrilled to death to get it. At any rate, God was teaching me He'd take care of me. And we had one car. My wife had to stay at home all the time because I was up in the morning going to school, and then when I got off from school, I was going to work. And we didn't know how in the world things were going to work out. We never did do much better. Finally got a job in a whole 40 hours a week working at a school, a church. I was there. They had a school there, and I was a janitor anyway. I understand why they called it custodian, because I tell you, when you get down on your hands and knees and your face cleaning potties and little boys and little girls laughing at you, oh my, they take all the starch out of your collar. I didn't realize I had any. If it did, it sure took a long time, because we did that for a while. And I told the Lord, I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm not crazy about this job, but at least they're working with me. And if this is what you want me to do the rest of the time I'm here in Nashville, this is what I'll do. Once I settled it with the Lord that God could take care of me, if it's $2 an hour, He'd meet our needs and we'd make it. Matter of fact, we were so poor that one of the years we couldn't come home. I mean, come home from Nashville, Tennessee to North Carolina, we didn't have the money to do it. And one of the Sunday school classes raised money for us to come home for Christmas. At any rate, we still made that $2 an hour and kept doing that job. And when I finally settled in my heart that I had peace, this is where I was going to stay until God moved me to a different job. That was what I was going to do. I was going to do His will. And if His will was for me to make $2 an hour and us struggle, we'd struggle. I'll tell you some of the cute stories. We had a steakhouse that they built in Ewan right down from where we lived. And this Catholic lady knew we were struggling. She took us down. And we went down and she bought us a steak and baked potato and a salad. Biggest baked potatoes that you've ever seen in all your life, at least as big as we'd seen. And so we went down and had a great meal, took two kids with us, and she fed us all. And all the rest of the time we fed her. We'd take and buy a pizza, and one of the pizzas you could buy in Nashville, it was so large that we could scrape the top off of what was left and get those bulk pizzas, little dollar pizzas, and put this on top of it. She made 3 more pizzas out of that one pizza. And they had a little chicken place down there, had chicken breast. You could get, I think it was the church's chicken place. You could get a chicken breast for 50 cents. So when we splurged, I'd go down and get us a couple of those breasts, and we'd share it. The 2 children and Eileen and I would share it. We got to asking each other about it. Said, you know, those potatoes were so big in that steakhouse, we can't afford the steak. You reckon they'd let us buy potatoes? So I said, I don't know, but let's go see. So here we pack up our 2 kids, and we go down to the restaurant, we go to the line, and we ask the lady, says, any way possible we can just buy a potato? And so she said, yes, sir, we got potatoes and water. But we got them big old potatoes, got us enough for us and the kids, and that was our meal. Never did get over that $2 an hour until finally I settled it with the Lord. If this is what you want me to do, you want me to clean potties till I get out of college, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And I got peace about that thing, and when I did, within about 2 weeks, I got the best paying job that I had it was about the last year of my college, and I applied for another job and never even got a chance to go for an interview. But anyway, this place was, the hours were terrible. I was going to college, I had 19 semester hours, 6 hours of correspondence, so I had to finish up that one semester. It was the last semester in school, but I'd been working the first semester at this other trucking company, and the first month I was there, my boss gave me a 50 cent on the hour raise. Now, I had started somewhere around $2.30. I don't remember what it was, but he gave me a 50 cent raise. And come Christmas time, they gave us a bushel basket with a turkey or ham in it, and it was loaded with all kind of fruit and nuts. That was our Christmas present. It's the only company I've ever had that gave us that much, really, at Christmas. But anyway, the unique thing about it, God had showed me, even though the hours were terrible, I went to work at 4:42, got off at 1:12 in the morning, drove back across Nashville, went back home. We didn't have a shower, so we had to have a tub bath, and I would oftentimes get in there, take my bath, and lay back in that warm water and fall asleep and wake up an hour or two later. And sleep an hour or two and get up. I had to be back on the other side of Nashville by 8 o'clock in the morning. So it was difficult. I was getting 2 or 3 hours a night sleep. I was wore slam jam out. And I said, God, whatever you do, send me to a church that can take care of me. Listen, it's not the church that takes care of you. It's God that takes care of you. So here I come. The church is Eileen's home church, back in her home area, back in my home area as well. And I made God a promise years and years ago. I said, I will never pastor the church. Now, we went there when we were living in Charlotte. We'd come in on the weekends, go to church here. And I'd seen some things going to church I just didn't like. And I said, God, I'll never pastor that church. And so I preached at the church in Tennessee while I was there. I did a trial message, and they didn't get me. And the guy that got church said, David, you better be glad you didn't get that church. You're much better off by not taking it. But anyway, he took it, and it was a tough church for him. At any rate, the church from here in Rockingham called me and asked us to come, wanted us to come take the church. And I said, no, you're crazy. Forget about it. I am not going. I've made God a promise. I'm not going to pastor that church. By the way, be careful what you tell God you won't do. Those very things you think you won't do, God will teach you that you will do. And he had somewhere for me to go, and that was back here in my home area in my wife's home church. And so I prayed about that thing, because here God's still trying to teach me to trust in Him, believe in Him. And I wrestled with it for 2 weeks the whole time, saying, no, it ain't going to go. I'm not going back. Forget that. I'm not going to do it. At any rate, I finally prayed about that thing, because I've been praying the whole time, prayed 2 weeks. And I wrote a letter, and I said, look, if you pay for the U-Haul, I don't have money for U-Haul. Listen, I was going to a place, they're going to pay me less than $100 a week, no place to stay, no benefits. And here I am praying, God, send me to church, take care of me. I said, I'm tired. I've had on a couple hours a night sleep. I finally graduated. I need your help. I need to be able to rest some. Ended up having to work a second job, not only me, but my wife as well, and she'd never really worked. And I said, I don't want my wife to have to work. But the other church that I'd preached at, they said, listen, your wife can work, because they weren't willing to pay me much money. I said, listen, she didn't work while I was in Bible college. She's not going to work now. I said, I'll take a second job, but she's not going to take a job. At any rate, come to Rockingham, and we both ended up taking jobs. And anyway, God did bless us. The move was right. But while I had prayed about it for about 2 weeks, making the decision to come back home to the church that I said I'd never pastor, I wrote a letter, and I said, if you'll take care of the moving expenses, we're going to come. Didn't have anywhere to put our furniture when we got here, nowhere. And they want us to. There's a little church, little house the church on. They want us to move in there, and you could take a ball and lay it on one side of the room, and it rolled to the other side of the room. I said, I'm not putting my family in the house. Forget it. So we ended up renting us a house. But anyway, while I was deciding whether I was going to come or not, I had the letter in my hand. I was on the way to the mailbox, and God Almighty gave me a verse, and He said, if you believe, I can't get to come. It's in John 14. Let not your heart be troubled. If you believe in God, believe also in me. And I knew right then, God gave me the peace, and I knew that I was supposed to come. I didn't know that I would be working a second job for the next 9 years. I did go full time, and ended up working the last years. I stayed there 36 and a half years, and the last 6 years really, I worked for hospice. And it was a great job. And I told the church, I had a heart attack in 2007. And I told the church, I said, look, I've got to have insurance. My insurance didn't want to pay for the heart attack. They finally did, but they didn't want to. And I said, I can't go and stay here as a pastor and not have insurance. And I said, you can't afford insurance, because now that I've had the heart attack, it'll cost $1,000 a month. I had gone out to Richmond County Hospice and talked to them about a job, and the guy was begging me to come. He said, I want you to come. You be the chaplain. I'll take care of the other stuff. And they couldn't give me insurance. And he went back and begged and pleaded. I mean, he did everything he could to get me a job and get insurance. And he said, listen, just take the pay and go buy you insurance. I said, man, I'm not going to come and work a job and take all that I'm making for the job to pay for insurance. That's not going to happen. So I walked away from that, and I was discouraged. I was defeated. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew that I needed insurance. I was going to have some kind of job that had insurance. In 3 weeks, I think it was, a lady called me and said, would you be interested in a chaplain job? And I said, well, with hospice, by the way. Would you be interested in a chaplain job with hospice? And I said, yeah, I would be if they got insurance. And she said, they have insurance. And sure enough, I took the job. I went back to my church and I said, look, I've got to have insurance. I will not be hurt, disappointed, upset, aggravated with you whatsoever if you want to call another pastor. You can go ahead and do that. I have got to have insurance. And I said, I just can't take a chance of having something bad happen to me and my family, be left out in the cold. Somebody's got to pay the bills, and that's what my job. I'm supposed to be the guy that provides, and that's what God called me to do as a husband, and I'm going to be a provider. So if you want to call somebody else, go ahead. And that will not bother me at all. But they decided they wanted me to stay, and I did. I stayed for 4 more years, worked for hospice 6 years. But anyway, we trusted in the Lord, and I guess in those years that I was there, He taught me, I'll take care of you, and He's still taking care of us. We've had, as most of you know from the other videos, the head-on collision. I was given 30 minutes to live. I've had some other close calls. As my pastor says, you've used up most of your 9 lives already. So I'll do a video on that later. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. My good buddy's with me. Tell him hello there, Mr. Matthew.
Hello.
You tell he talks a lot. He's my buddy. He's taking care of all these things. So y'all reach out to him if you know him and pat him on the back, because he's doing a wonderful job. Love you folks. Hope you enjoyed the video. Talk at you later. Bye now.